What's up, guys? So, Claude Code 4.6 Opus just dropped. The latest model. By the way, if you've watched my previous videos, you know 4.5 Opus is already really good. And it can basically one or two shot most features, do pretty complex, complicated work. And on top of that, it has a relatively usable context window size. It has about a 200K, 200,000 token context window size. And I haven't really ran into that many issues with it, and in fact, I actually find compacting and condensing the context window early, so using around 100 to 150k be more optimal than maxing it out. Well, with 4.6, the context window is 5 times bigger. 5 times bigger. So now, your same, I wouldn't even say same because it technically is improved. We're going to see some of the stats in a second. I would say it's an improved model with a bigger context window, meaning it can not only do more complex tasks, it can do complex tasks for several hours without going crazy. Because if you understand how context windows work, once you start hitting that context window limit, your model just starts dropping in quality so drastically it stops functioning and it becomes slop. You 5 times that window. So now it can do literally what it could do before with 5 times more context, 5 times more files, 5 times more information, and it should still theoretically perform. That is crazy. So we're upgrading our smartest model. The new Claude 4.6 Opus improves on its predecessor's coding skills, which is crazy. 4.5 was already so good. It plans more carefully, sustains agentic tasks for longer, can operate more reliably in larger code base. This was a lot of people's criticism against Claude and generally agentic tools. Everyone says it doesn't work in large code bases, which I personally disagree. I've used it in large code bases. But I don't know if that even applies anymore because I used to recommend people with bigger code bases use 4.5 Sonnet because Sonnet was the one with the bigger context window. But now Opus has that too. That is a huge game changer. You cannot undersell that. And has a better code review and debugging skills to catch its own mistakes. I mean, I felt that Opus was good enough at this, so I personally don't care about that too much. And in a first for Opus class models, Opus 4.6 features a 1 million context window in beta. So obviously it being a beta, it's not 100% going to be working or out of the box or reliable. I am interested to test it out and push it to its limits. I really want to see pushing it to like a 900,000 context window, what it does, if it can still function. 4.6 Opus can also apply its improved abilities to a range of everyday tasks. I personally don't really care. I use GPT 5.2 for my everyday tasks. I find it that it's more generic and more useful for everyday tasks, but obviously Claude is trying to push you to buy not only their coding subscription, but also use their basic day-to-day chat functionality, because that's how right now OpenAI has so much dominance in the AI space, because people literally use it for like dumb things like, hey, I have a pimple on my face, what do I do about it? Obviously people aren't using Claude Code for that. Claude Code has been more specific to coding, and Claude in general has been a very specific coding model. So I understand why they're trying to expand into the general industry, because there's more money to be made there, right? Like, not everybody's a coder. I believe there's only like 15 million coders in the world, and there's 7 billion people. Obviously, you would want to sell to the bigger audience. I get that. The model's performance is state of the art. I will say the one thing, them taking a more generic or general population approach to target, it does make the models better at UX. I will say that, because Codex, I personally feel that Codex is a better user experience for when it develops. Like, it just genuinely thinks more like a product person, more from a UI UX perspective, whereas Opus is just smarter and more technical. So I think them generalizing their 4.6 Opus model to also be able to do general tasks, I think as a side effect, it's going to make it think more like a product manager, more like a human. You know what I'm saying? Not a very specialized robot, because software engineers are robots, let's be honest. Like, we're basically robots. We're very logical. We're like, everything's about solving problems. We're emotionless creatures. I'm joking, by the way. We're not that. But anyways, the model's performance is state of the art on several evaluations. I personally don't care too much about benchmarks, to be honest with you. But like, obviously, that's what they're going to try and chill it with, because that's what most people care about. For example, it achieves the highest score on agentic coding evaluation, Terminal Bench 2.0, which to me doesn't mean much because you can basically fine tune your models to overfit for these benchmarks. And then in real life scenarios, you actually tend to underperform because these benchmarks are not a representative or a general enough representative of real coding environments. So I'll take that how you will. Leads to all other frontier models on humanities last exam, a complex multidisciplinary reasoning test on GDP val. I mean, like I said, I'm gonna quickly just go through the charts. I really don't care about the benchmarks. I'm just more interested in using it and then using it with a bigger context window. And then obviously it being smarter at coding and being a little bit more general. I'm interested to see the UX UI comes up with eventually. So I mean, it's every single post and every single new model release, regardless of who it is, always makes their model look better than the rest. But obviously, as you can see, Opus 4.5 and 5.2 were neck and neck. Now there's a massive difference between 4.6 and 5.2. It's like almost a 150 point difference on knowledge work. Agentic search, I mean, Opus 4.5 was worse than GPT 5.2 for, which is, I mean, the fact that they're showing this. But obviously they're trying to make their current model look better, which it looks to be like a slightly better. Coding wise, Opus 4.6 is almost identical to 5.2 Codex. Okay, that's kind of interesting. 4.5 Opus was worse than 5.2 according to this benchmark, Terminal Bench 2.0. Opus 4.6 is literally neck and neck. Like it's almost tangible difference. It doesn't matter. So 5.2 coding ability, 5.2 Codex coding ability was already great. So I'm not too interested or worried about that. And then reasoning, obviously, again, without tools and with tools. Without tools, it's the best. With tools, it's the best. But like the variance isn't actually that crazy big. 5.2 Pro is still scoring 50 versus 53, 40 versus 36. So, I mean, like I said, the benchmarks will always be like kind of like lipsticked to look better than the rest. But it really doesn't matter. I think what matters more is the fact that we can use the same not the same, but slightly better 4.5 model with a bigger context window. I know I'm gonna keep saying that over and over again. You can now assemble agent teams to work on tasks together. I honestly am curious and interested to see this because I do get my agents and I kind of do this manually myself. I will treat each chat session as a different agent and I'll say, you're a QA, do a QA audit. You're a security, do a security audit. So if you can kind of define your own teams and then just deploy them instead, it does save me the whole typing and whole context gathering process. And I just say, here's this QA agent, go figure it out. And maybe if the QA agent over time builds its own context and knowledge specific to whatever work it did in the past, that would be pretty cool because then you basically have your own little employees and your own little workforce. Claude can use compaction to summarize its own context and perform longer running tasks without bumping in against limits. I mean, like with 200K, that compaction happened pretty often. With 1 million, that compaction is probably going to happen like every hour, which is crazy. That is insane. Right now, I compact every 10 minutes. Every hour is crazy. We're also introducing adaptive thinking, where the model can pick up on contextual clues about how much to use as extended thinking, and new effort control to give developers more control over intelligence, speed, and cost. I don't think they'll ever give us real control over cost. I'm not going to lie. They're trying to basically subsidize their models. So they're trying to basically get you to pay for the max $240. And that gives you like 20x the usage versus the regular model. So obviously it's heavily subsidized. But if they give you access to the cost, then they can't really make money off of you. So I don't know what that even means. We made substantial upgrades to Claude and Excel, and we're releasing Claude and PowerPoint. I'm a developer. I don't really give a fuck about Claude and Excel. Claude 4.5, 4.6 Opus is available on Claude.ai. It's also, the extension got updated. My local Claude also got updated through the terminal. It all got updated, so I can access the 4.6. Although I kept seeing it's still showing 200K context window. I don't know if it's like some setting that they've yet to release or if the extension I'm using is not updated yet. It's officially supported extension that was updated 4 minutes ago, so I don't see why not. Pricing remains the same at $5 and $25 per million token. That is crazy. It is the same price, better model, bigger context window, same price. Obviously, bigger context window means that it'll use more tokens, or does it? I don't know. It actually could be it uses less tokens because every time you spin up a new chat session, you have probably about 20% token overhead that is used for nothing, right? So maybe it actually uses less tokens. First impressions, we build Claude with Claude. Our engineers write code every day with Claude. This is one of the best strategies. You dog food your own product. I'm interested to see if they also use like Codex as well. Like I would prefer the Claude team use all of the coding agents so that they can gather like what's good about it, what's bad about it, and then iterate. Because again, if you kind of dog food just your product and not your competitors, you kind of go down a pigeonhole of like, it's an echo chamber. You're just reinforcing your ideologies. I actually like Claude's ideology of bypass mode, but like OpenAI's ideology of sandbox mode, I'm sorry, bro. Like it's just too big of a killer for performance. We found that the model brings more focus on the most challenging part of the task without being told to, moves quickly through the more straightforward path, handles ambiguous problems with better judgment, and stays productive. I mean, I'll be the judge of that. I'll give you guys an update after a week of using it, but as of right now, I literally can't use the 1 million context. So please, for the love of God, release the 1 million context on the extension so I can use it. Then I will give my verdict. I personally am optimistic. I've always been a big fan of Claude Code, and I've used Cursor, I've used Claude, I've used Codex, I've tried Klein, I've used Copilot. Copilot's trash. Don't ever fucking use that thing. You know what? I shouldn't say that before I get sued by Microsoft, but Microsoft GitHub Actions went down 2 days ago. I don't know if that's related to Copilot, but anyways, guys, I will let you know in a week how this goes. Okay? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Bye.